today's revision class, History, Chapter 8, Devotional Paths to the Divine. We know that in the ancient time, there were only higher caste people, they all got the chance to worship or the rituals. So there were some emergence of new religious ideas that were the Bhakti movements emerged at that time. The developments of that Bhakti movements and the emergence of new religious ideas that we are discussing in this chapter.
The idea of supreme god. Before large kingdoms emerged, different groups of people worshipped their own gods and goddesses. The central line worshipped their own gods and goddesses. Many people were uneasy with such ideas and turned to the teachings of Buddha or the Jainas, according to which it was possible to overcome social differences and break the cycle of rebirth through personal effort. Others felt attracted the idea of supreme god. Just underline supreme god and Buddha are the Jainas. The idea of supreme god was advocated in the Bhagavad Gita in the early centuries. Shiva, Vishnu, and Durga was supreme deities came to be worshipped through elaborate rituals. They were the supreme god of the ancient time. Local myths and legends become a part of the Puranic stories, underline Puranic stories, and methods of worship recommended in the Puranas were introduced into the local cults. In South India, a new kind of bhakti were emerged, Nayanas and Alvas. Nayanas were the devotee to Shiva and Alvas are the devotee to Vishnu, who came from the caste including those considered the untouchable. They are from the lower caste people and they were sharply critical the Buddhists and Jains and preached ardent love of Shiva or Vishnu as the path of salvation. They drew upon the ideals of love and heroism. Just underline love and heroism and Alvas and Nayanas. They composed the musics and they visited the villages through villages and set them into the music or through music they have preached their worship. There were 63 Nayanas, they become the untouchable workers, peasants, hunters, soldiers, brahmanas, and there are two sets of compilations of their songs, Tevaram and Tiruvakam. There were 12 Alvas who came from equally from the untouchable people. The best known being Periyalvar and his daughter Andal Tandaradipodi Alvar, and their songs were compiled in the Divya Prabandham. The Chola kings built elaborate temples for worshipping, and the Alvas and Nayanas were also composed some of the biographies of religious, and these texts were some of the sources that we are using to find out the history of Bhakti tradition. Shankaracharya was one of the most influential philosophers of India. He born in Kerala. He was an advocate of Advaita or the doctrine of the oneness. The underline doctrine of the oneness. Shankaracharya, Kerala, Advaita. Underline these words. He considered the world around us to be an illusion or Maya. Just underline world around illusion or Maya. And preached renunciation of the world and adoption of the path of knowledge to understand the true nature of Brahman and attain salvation. Just underline renunciation, Brahman and attain salvation. Ramanuja was another philosopher born in Tamil Nadu. He was deeply influenced by the Alvar saints. According to him, the best means of attaining salvation was through intense devotion to Vishnu. Just underline intense devotion to Vishnu, attaining salvation. Ramanuja, Tamil Nadu. Underline these words. He propounded the doctrine of Visishtadvaita or qualified oneness. Underline Visishtadvaita. In that, the soul, even when united with the Supreme God, remained distinct. Ramanuja's doctrine greatly inspired the new stand of bhakti which developed in the North India subsequently. Veerashaiva movement initiated by Basavana and his companions like Allama Prabhu and Akka Mahadevi. This movement began in Karnataka. The Veerashaivas argued strongly for the equality of all human beings. Underline equality of all human beings. And against Brahmanical ideas and about the caste and treatment of women. They were also against all forms of ritual and ideal worship. Just underline, they were against ritual and ideal worship. Basavana, Veerashaiva, underline these words. Allama Prabhu and Akkamadevi. Just underline these words. There were some of the saints of Maharashtra in the 13th and 17th centuries. They were Jnaneshwar, Namdev, Eknath, Tukaram, Shakubai, and Chukamela. Underline these names. They were belonged to Mahar caste. It is untouchable at that time. And this regional tradition of bhakti focused on the Vithala temple in Pandarpur. Just underline Vithala temple, Pandarpur. The other religious groups were Nathpandis, Siddhacharas, and Yogis. They advocated renunciation of the world. To them, the path of salvation lay in meditation. To achieve this, they advocate intense training of the mind and body through practices like yogasanas, breathing exercise, and meditation. Just underline yogasanas and the names of these religious groups. And these groups become very famous, popular among the low caste because you know that at that time only the higher class people can do worship or the rituals. The others cannot. That's why these types of bhakti movements got more popularity in the low caste peoples. Islam and Sufism. The Sufis were Muslim mystics, underline. They rejected outward religiosity and emphasized love and devotion to God and compassion towards all fellow human beings. Just underline compassion to all fellow beings. Islam propagated strict monotheism or submission of one God. They believe in that only one God. Among the great Sufis of Central Asia were Ghazali, Rumi, and Sadi, underline. Like the Nathpandis and Siddharthas and Yogis, the Sufis too believed that the heart can be trained to look at the world in different way. They developed elaborate methods of training using sikr, chanting the name of sacred formula, contemplation, sama, ragas, discussion of parables, breath control, etc. under the guidance of master of Pir. If any person want to follow the Sufi, they want to do the guidance of a master, all those things. Many Sufi teachers were there. They were famous Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti of Ajmer, Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Kagi of Delhi, Baba Farid of Punjab, Khwaja Nizamuddin Auliya, Delhi, and Bandanwas Gisudas of Gulbarga. They were some of the prominent Sufi teachers. New religious developments happened in North India. Islam, Brahmanical Hinduism, Sufism, and various strands of Bhakti and Nathpandis, Siddhas, and Yogis influenced in another way. And Kabir and Baba Guru Nanak reject the all orthodox religions. And Tulsidas conceived of God in the form of Rama. Tulsidas' composition, the Ramacharitamanas, underline, written in Awadhi language, was an important work or the religious development in the North India. Surdas was another devotee of Krishna. His composition compiled in Sursagara, Surasaravali, and Sahitya Lahari express his devotion to God. Also contemporary was Shankar Deva of Assam, who emphasized the devotion to Vishnu, underline these, and composed poems and plays in Assami language. Another prominent leaders, Dadu Dayal, Ravidas, and Mirabai. Mirabai was the Rajput princess, and later she became the disciple of Rabidas and a saint from a caste considered untouchable. She was devoted to Krishna and composed innumerable bhajans expressing her intense devotion. Her songs also openly challenged the norms of upper caste and became popular with the mass of Rajasthan and Gujarat. Underline these bhajans and Rajasthan and Gujarat. They became immensely popular and were handed down orally from generation to generation. Underline generation to generation. Kabir was one of the most influential saints of the 15th and 16th centuries. He was from the weavers family in the city of Benares. We get to know his ideas from the vast collection of verses called Sakis and Paths said to have been composed by him. Just underline Sakis and Paths. His teachings openly ridiculed all forms of external worship of both Brahmanical Hinduism and Islam. Underline this. The language of his poetry was in a form of spoken Hindi widely understood by ordinary people. His teachings were widely understood by the ordinary people. And Kabir believed in a formless supreme God and preached that only path to salvation was through bhakti or devotion. Kabir drew his followers from among both Hindus and Muslims. Just underline, he got followers from Hindus and Muslims. Baba Guru Nanak was born in Talwandi in 1469. He traveled widely before establishing a center at Kartarpur, just underline Kartarpur, and regular worship that considered of the singing of his own hymns was established there for his followers, and irrespective of their former creed, caste, or gender, his followers ate together in the common kitchen, langar, just underline langar. Before his death, he appointed another one follower for him. His name was Lehna, but he came to be known as Guru Angad. Just underline Guru Angad and his former name. Guru Angad compiled the composition of Baba Guru Nanak, to which he added to his own in a new script known as Gurumukhi. The three successors of Guru Angad also wrote under the name of Nanak, and all of their compositions were compiled by Guru Arjun in 1604. The holy book of Guru Granth Sahib was compiled by Guru Govind Singh, the son of Guru Tej Bahadur, in 1706. The beginning of 17th century, the town of Ramdaspur, Amritsar, had developed around the central Gurudwara called Harmandir Sahib, Golden Temple. Just underline Harmandir Sahib. The Mughal Emperor Jahangir executed Guru Arjan Dev in 1606. Underline those words. Guru Govind Singh started a new Sikh movement. It was known as Khalsa. Khalsa by Guru Govind Singh in 1699. Underline. Baba Guru Nanak's idea of equality had a social and political implication. Just underline his idea of equality. Like Kabir, Ravidas and Dadu, whose ideas were very similar to those of Baba Guru Nanak. Baba Guru Nanak's ideas and Kabir's and Ravidas, their ideas are very similar. They all believe in equality and political and social awareness.
We have seen the supreme deities or the supreme god, Shiva, Durga and Vishnu, and some of the Bhakti saints, Nayanas and Alvas, and Shankaracharya and Ramanuja were the philosophers, Shankaracharya from Kerala and Ramanuja from Tamil Nadu. Basavana's Veerashaivism, they were against the idol worship and rituals, and saints of Maharashtra, Jnaneshwar, Tukaram, Namdev, and Islam and Sufism. There were some of the prominent Bhakti saints in the religion Islam, and Tulsidas, Kabir, Surdas and Shankardeva, they were some of the Bhakti leaders or the saints of North India, and Guru Nanak and Sikhism. The founder of Sikhism was Guru Nanak. His teachings were compiled in the book Guru Granth Sahib. It is the holy book of Sikhs, and they have given the food to the poor. That is known as the langar, and Golden Temple was the Gurudwara or the prominent worshipping center for the Sikhs. So go through the textbook, read it carefully, underline important points, and study well.